The Bill Clark Show, presented by Dr. Pepper. And now, Coach Bill Clark.
Welcome into the Coach Bill Clark Show. Landrum Roberts, Molly Robinson, Coach Bill Clark. Pat Smith not with us this week. He has opted out of the show, Coach.
Yes, we'll have to look at his contract.
We will look at his contract. He has not put his name in the portal yet.
Not yet.
No, not yet. But there's some smoke that's out there. Maybe the deal's already done. We don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to do some. We'll do some checking.
The weekend was too much for Pat.
Yeah,
there in Atlanta. Let's talk about that, Coach. SEC championship, Alabama and Georgia, the rematch. Boy, if you're a Georgia fan, you like the rematch. If you're an Alabama fan, you probably want to forget about that one.
Probably what a lot of people thought, maybe that it would kind of go this route. Alabama, and let's just be honest, they're beat up, but as we say this time of year, so is everybody else, and we're going to talk a little bit about Georgia and how I think and I've mentioned this on our show, visiting them and what the amount of care they get. And I'm not saying Alabama gets great care. Lyle Kane and all those guys are great friends of mine. That's what they've won on for years. Kirby saw that model, and I know he's doing it at Georgia, but maybe how he practices, maybe defensive mentality just a little bit might be a good thing. But not knocking Alabama, just I think them being beat up, Georgia's playing well. They're peaking at the right time. Some of the things, the run game with Miller out, and I think we saw a lot of that.
Injuries, you can't do anything about. You can try to get the guys back with the care that they have in the facility, but sometimes it's just going to take time. So injuries, still a question mark with Alabama. Who's going to be available for the game coming up in Norman? But the things you can fix, just to your naked coach's eye, what are things at Alabama you think that they can fix right now that gives them a better opportunity to win in Norman?
Well, if we just looked at that Alabama at the Georgia game, a block punt. That's something that can never happen. But maybe that's a one-off, right? The things that we see, I don't know. In my opinion, now it's less about the running game than be who you are. If you're going to throw it, and that's what you want to do, then throw it. I think if we went back to the last Georgia game, they threw it early and they threw it often. Then they came back at the end of the game and started running the ball as they tried to ice it away. And either way, whatever is, if that's what's working, I think that's what they really need to look at. Is we're going to throw the ball and we're going to throw it, and we might throw it. This may be we throw it 3 downs. Then they maybe open up their run game. So I think that's the thing. But you got to pass protect. People are isolating their running back in protection, and they're getting destroyed. One of the things we used to say about a running back, people say, well, what do you judge a running back on? And I got this from the best, pass protection. Like, pass protection? I said, because we're not talking to him if he's not a good runner.
Right.
But if he cannot pass pro, go back and look at Alabama. Miller against Oklahoma, this last game, they're struggling in pass protection. And that's what they're doing. They're figuring out how to isolate those running backs in pass pro. And that's what's hurting them. That's why people heating them up. It's getting them a lot of problems.
What about quarterback Ty Simpson? He was able, after the Florida State game, he hit that stretch, that groove where his pass is just pinpoint precision that he had on them. That rapport. There wasn't a throw he couldn't make. To me, it looks like, and with good reason, injuries, guys are dropping footballs at times. You're not getting protection. All of those things that quarterbacks have to deal with. But it looks like maybe lacking a little bit of confidence. What do you see in body language wise with Ty Simpson here in the last part of the season?
I think that's what it looks like, and I think it looks like he's worried about protection. I think he's worried about protection. Now, balls that go through guys' arms and things like that, that's on them. But I think it's like look at his feet. And that's just like one of those things that Joe Blow out there can say, his feet are all over the place, but they're all over the place. Which goes back to your word about your protection, which goes back to how many times have we seen a running back get isolated and get beat. So I think as people have figured out how to attack their protection, they've gotten worse and worse and worse. And I think as people heat you up, screen. What do you do to people? You screen them. You got to do things, getting it out in the perimeter here, screen game. That's what slows up a pass rush.
Aside from a matchup, though, Alabama, they get beat by 3 scores. They still get in the college football playoff. They have the matchup with Oklahoma, a team that beat them at Bryant-Denny. You got to travel there. But as far as the matchup, other than matching up with JMU or Tulane in the first round, a lot of Alabama fans said they liked the matchup. Is this the most favorable matchup you think Alabama could have gotten, minus James Madison and Tulane?
Right. Yeah, minus that, I would say team they could have, should have beat. Not a great offense in Oklahoma. And we got something to prove. They beat us. Yeah, I think so. I think it's the best matchup for them.
Preparation-wise, and we've talked about rematches already, but this a little bit different. You got a playoff setting. You're playing on a Friday night. You're traveling as opposed to welcoming someone in. It's not a neutral site game. How much difference does that make for Kalen DeBoer and staff?
I think minus weather. Weather could be a factor. It's always a factor. Is there anything past cold and rain? You always look at that. Maybe it's good on them. Go back to back and shoulder to shoulder, and let's go do something. Let's go do something special here with a team that beat us. We got something to prove after the last game. I mean, we had a good year. We got something to prove after the last game. We're still in it. Everybody's in it. So maybe get a few guys well, and let's go beat this team that beat us at home.
Another perspective, and this is from the Kalen DeBoer angle, not that he's on the hot seat by any means, but given the way that Alabama played down the stretch, albeit they won the Iron Bowl, you lose to Georgia in the rematch by 3 scores. You play this Oklahoma team who already beat you once. Now, there's that chance you go to Norman and you get beat a second time.
Right.
Could it end up being more of a curse and a blessing for Kalen DeBoer to earn that spot in the championship game and then to face off in the college football playoff against a team that already beat you in a game you should have won, you feel like, back at home?
We talk all the time about what happens when you hit playoff tournament. We've talked about being raised with a dad who coached both football and basketball, and one of our big things was always basketball teams, number one is to be playing your best at tournament time. We talked about half-court basketball for half the season. What was the purpose of that? Why weren't you running full court? I'm holding the horses back. I'm slowing them down. I want them to be good. Let's work fundamentals. Just like what I always talked about changing your practices up as the season started to go down. I'm protecting the bodies. I want them to be fresh. Going into playoff football, that's a whole different mindset. Who wants to keep playing, right? Who's peaking at the right time? So think about Florida State and Georgia a few years ago. I mean, they got destroyed from this unbelievable season. I'm not saying Alabama's going to get destroyed, but yes, that can happen. I mean, you can come in at the end of the year and have a couple negatives back to back, and that's as a coach, that's the stuff that's what drives you crazy. Man, we've had a good year. We beat Auburn. We lose to Georgia. Oh, and we lose again? And especially if it's not good. I mean, you never want to lose, but losing at the end of the year is awful.
Georgia, on the other hand, their season, it seems like this is the team that got better as the year went on. And it's funny how we were looking at the Lenore Sellers of the world at South Carolina, the Nussmeyers, the Lagways, all these quarterbacks coming in to conference play. Nobody's really talking about Gunnar Stockton. And you look at some of these past Georgia teams, offensive skill-wise.
Yes.
Brock Bowers, most recently, Ladd McConkey, all the great running backs they've always had there. They've had some good quarterbacks, not always stellar, like guys like Stetson Bennett and others that have led them. But there's really nothing that caught your attention. Not that they didn't have good players, but on the offensive side of the ball, you get the coaches vote, the All-SEC first team, not a Georgia player on the offense.
Right.
That's there. Does that speak more to Georgia, maybe schematically, what Bobo's doing there, or is that more of an indictment of parity and how it's set in college football?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that Stockton is a stud.
He is.
And the thing about him, and I say this all the time to coaches, I was talking to a coach yesterday, I'm like, the quarterback that can run and is physically tough like he is, that can take some bangs and bruises, and he makes good throws, but he runs when he needs to. And that was the thing. And I've bragged on Ty Simpson all year, but how many times in that game where they're just, when he just takes off. Now you got no one to slide, you got no one to get down, but that is the 12th man that you cannot factor in. And let me tell you what, that guy, that's what he can do. Now, their scheme is built around multiplicity with tight ends, and they get a lot of 12 personnel where they're giving you different tight ends and they can flex them out, and they're running the ball, which sets up all their play action. I think the way they're built, once again, it's that tough. It drives me crazy. Defensive minded. Defensive minded just means I understand what the defense doesn't like to see, and we're going to do it. We're going to be able to be multiple. We're going to be able to do the things if you can't stop the run, we're going to be able to run it. If you can't stop the throw, or whatever that is, I want to be able to do that. And especially when somebody knows I'm going to run the ball, I got to be able to run it. When I need to go to a 2-minute, I think they can do that. So they're built that way. They're built to get better every year. And I think a lot of that's how they hold them accountable in practice, because I know how they do that. So to see somebody get better, to me, was like, if I had one thing I wanted you to say about our team besides toughness and effort, was that we got better every week.
Yeah, and that's something you're going to get from now the dean, I guess, of SEC coaches, Kirby Smart. Hard to believe that he would be the dean of SEC coaches when you look at the roster around the league. But he's not the only Smart that we know on this show. You got our friends at Smart Bank, and they do it right every day.
Yeah, in fact, I was at a Christmas party with our friends from Smart Bank the other night, and I think just seeing those folks together and how they really care about each other, it's always talk about what we can do for the customers and make for a better experience. I mean, that's what we hear on the advisory board. I was laughing. I was talking about we talk about them on our show, not a canned commercial, but it's because I believe in it and I've seen it from them. So. Our guys at Smart Bank really they do a great job. They're good people.
As we head into the college football playoff, and we're going to talk about the selection process, statements we got from Hunter Yurachek, Notre Dame, in the aftermath of all of that, which has been very entertaining for us in the sports media world to follow. You look at this Georgia team right now, if we're reseeding the college football playoff, and we did it on the show as an exercise, I got Georgia number 2 right behind Indiana.
Yeah.
There's just something special about that team,
Absolutely.
the way that they play together. I wanted to kind of go there with you because you get it. You said that some people, it's like, well, they're all on a team. Well, no, how they play, I can see it just by watching them play. And I told you this last year, just how they play together.
Yeah.
It seemed like they play for one another, they play for their coach, they play complementary football. Break that down for our listeners and our viewers.
Yeah, and it's how you build the whole team. And people say, well, NIL, and I get it, but I came from a world where I had to go out and get all junior college players almost. When we first brought our program back, high school coaches didn't even believe in us. I mean, high school players. Well, you just shut your program down. So we had to go the junior college route. We had to, all over the country, mercenary type mentality, which is what NIL. What does a guy do in that world? Of course, they were able to bring in a lot of his players when he came from James Madison, right? He brought a lot of players with him, which brought a cohesion, which brought a lot of underdog type players. So how you build that roster? He built it with these guys who were FCS or, I guess they were still FCS at that time when he came. Something to prove. He's got something to prove. That's how they built it. Now, do you still need a great quarterback? Sure. But you can tell this whole thing is built with, and I said the other thing, I said this off air, they understand down and distance. They understand situations. They do the little things. They know where, it's like you watch it. Here's a great thing for our listeners to watch. You're watching a defense when a guy gets tackled and they're just obsessed with not letting him get another inch. Because all those inches add up to a first down. It's knowing where the sticks are. It's playing together. It's they're a team, which comes from the head coach, and it's fun to watch.
Another guy that's fun to watch is their quarterback, Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
Not going to get your thoughts on the Heisman, but Mendoza, this is a kid that rolls in. I can remember second week of the season last year, rolls into Jordan-Hare Stadium as a member of the Cal Bears.
Yeah.
Leading that team.
Yeah.
They get the win in Jordan-Hare. Transfer portal. All of a sudden, Indiana's looking for quarterback. He chooses Indiana. Chooses to go there to replace Rourke, who was a 6-year guy that they had last year, and he was a gutsy player.
Yeah,
played injured and played hurt. The kid they got out of the portal from Ohio. But you get Mendoza, and boy, you want to talk about growing where you're planted. He seems like he is very, very comfortable there in Bloomington.
Yeah, and I think just the emotion. I was laughing. Lady that works with me was talking about his interview post game.
Oh yeah.
But wow, I mean, just straight from the heart. How much he cares, how important that was, and that's what I always said. Can we get our players to want to win like that for the team? Yeah. Now, of course, he gave glory to God and all the things we believe in, but when you want to win that bad for your teammates, for your school, everybody wants to do good. Everybody wants to throw touchdowns and catch touchdowns. But is that your mentality that it's team? And that's the leader. And man, what a shot he took. I mean, like, is this dude getting up? Yeah. And he's up, And toughness, all the things. And boy, who's not pulling for this guy now?
No, and you're right. And we were talking about it just a couple of weeks ago about the Super 7 and how much fun that is to be around that, because it is still pure.
Yeah.
You still get. But for people who think that college football and all the great things about it that are lost, I think Indiana's a great example. Look at that Indiana team, and a team that right now is on top of the college football world.
Sure.
But you see glimpses of what I think a lot of people used to cherish about the college game that some people think are lost now.
Well, am I going to just say, well, they're all getting paid and we're just going to treat them like it's a business? Or do you keep doing those things that make you who you are? And I love things I'll hear Kirby say, because it'd be the same things I said, hey, maybe this is not the place for you. I mean, we want great players. We got money and we're going to spend money, but we're still going to be tough. We're still going to be accountable. And that's the thing. You have to keep demanding that. And here's the hard part. This is where people, like me breaking it down on champs. Oh, Lord. You asked for a championship. If you don't get it, you failed. Well, you're not going to get it if you don't talk about it. You're not going to get it if you don't think about it. You're not going to get it if you don't work on it. You don't get it if you demand excellence and expect it. And I think when you see it, you put pressure on yourself. Because if you fall short, it's tough. I mean, but to get it, you have to demand it, ask for it, want it, expect it. This is part of our culture. And then that's the ones you see that are on top.
And sometimes with expectations comes disappointment. That gets me to Sunday and what happened. Notre Dame, folks in South Bend, they expected it. We're Notre Dame. There's no way. We're not going to get pushed out. Notre Dame left out of the college football playoff. First, though, Hunter Yurachek, God bless him, trying to give his explanation where they arrived, Coach. I feel for the guy now. He was getting piled on by the Arkansas folks before he had to take over in this role for Mack Rhodes, and there's a reason that Hunter Yurachek has to be there in that seat. Somebody's got to do it. But I really don't think he's helped himself professionally.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. But he's representing those committee members, but the process in which they arrived, no. Can we just delete that and start over? I wanted transparency, but there I was like, no, I don't want to know how the sausage is made. Please don't tell me this. I can't believe I'm hearing this. Your thoughts? Yeah,
it wasn't good. It was the way it went down, the way the expectation. What are the rules? What are we going by? And of course we said it. A team in a conference championship should not be hurt by that. But being in a conference is important. I mean, we talked about that on Monday. I mean, these are the rules. This is the criteria. This is what it's going by. And you're not in a conference. There you go.
I think any given Saturday, I really do. This Notre Dame team gives max effort. I think they can beat anybody in this college football playoff field. But there are only 12 teams. We have 2 automatic bids. You've got the group of 6, if you want to call them that, with the now defunct Pac-12.
Yep.
And you have your Power 4. What do you think about doing away with the automatic bids? Let's expand it to 16. Let's take the top 16 teams.
Yeah, I do think one thing we've got to consider, and we've talked about this on our other show. If you don't have something for the non-Power 4, if we don't have something for them, whether we create something different, I love the idea. Even if we went to 16 and gave them 1, just something to play for. When you've got all these other guys got every advantage in the world because they got so much money. I like that theory. If we decided to go to 1, I'm afraid we're just going to keep going and going and going, because, we haven't even talked about the bowls.
No. With
Notre Dame opting out, what that's doing to these bowl games, which was some of the best experiences of my life, getting to go to these bowl games, So, how does that happen? What do they do? What do they move going forward? Do we expand it? But I like the idea of the ranking. I do like the idea of the ranking, and either give something for the non-Power 4 or still give at least 1 automatic berth where there's something to play for amongst that group.
For the people who say, well, what about the group of 5 programs? And that would be the idea, is you have the top 16, but number one, do you think that would spark change in a way that they can monetize it, create their own playoff, a championship to play for, where maybe the pot of money is actually bigger than it would be, and it benefits more than the current setup in the way it is now? I don't know. Would that deter recruiting, interest, fan support, knowing you're playing for a separate trophy
I don't know.
in that division?
That's a good
not
question.
Even division. I don't know.
Maybe, is it like the NIT? where you're kind of talking about non-power 4, and we got 4 teams. It's a semifinal and a final. Don't spread it out like what we're doing for the other. Give them 2 games, a 4-team deal. You got 2 bowl games, and then you got a championship game of the non-power 4. But when you're talking about you've got $2.5 million, let's just say 1.5 to 2.5. Now, obviously, we're in South Florida, sitting there, around the $10, $11 million mark, and you're sitting there at 25+ million. All the other teams, some of them is going as high as 40 million, and so on. I mean, it's insane,
right?
So having something for them that's legitimate, because what's happened now, it's not even in the hemisphere.
If you had to guess, and you still have very good friends and colleagues that are at that level, but how, and you've been there, how many of these guys, their recruiting pitch when a kid comes on campus, because number one, most of the conversations now start with how much you going to give me. How many of those guys are going, hey, you got a chance to come here and appear in a college football playoff? Are they selling that a lot at that level?
No, Lord, no.
No, conference championship, sure.
Right.
Great experience. We're going to take care of you.
Playing time.
But most of these guys, they're down there because they were at the Power 4 level.
Right.
And they want playing time.
Yep.
They want to get a paycheck. Maybe it's other circumstances. Or the guys who are there, they want to get to the Power 4 level a lot of times. Not always the case. So I think that argument, it's kind of weak and a little bit lazy.
Yeah, I think maybe you give them 1 or you do the 4. I love that idea because it's apples and oranges. It's apples and oranges. And now we would go, okay, what would you do if you had one that was in the 12-0? Well, they're going to be in the rankings.
Yeah.
They would make it into the rankings. So we rank them. If they don't make it, whoever the top 4 remainders. And let's just use Tulane, sitting there at 12-0. Boom, you're in the top 16 or the top 12. The other 4 go into this. Now, we may all know, okay, Tulane's really theoretically the best team of that group, but let's go see what these other guys can. I think it's a good idea. It gives them a chance. It would give them something to play for. It's really not much different than going to a bowl game.
This totally reinforces my pitch. Now that you've endorsed it, I think we can sell this.
Yeah.
Speaking of reinforcing concrete, whatever you need to do, building supplies.
Yep.
There's only one name we trust, and that's our friends at Webb.
Yeah, Phil Webb through the years, just great guy. Sponsored a lot of the college sports. Philanthropic. Say that word.
Philanthropic,
philanthropist.
Look at you.
Say it twice. Phil's a great guy. All the materials, building supplies you need. 7 locations out there. Great folks. Thanks for help.
New coach on the Plains, Alex Golish, 41 years young.
Yep.
Kind of learning about his history. Got to see him out of the American and UAB facing off against his South Florida teams just the last couple of seasons. I made the comment to Pat, just by seeing him there in the guts, the bowels, if you will, of Raymond James Stadium after traveling down there last year, stopped him. He was on his way from a press conference. This was post-game, and stopped just to say hello and congratulations. He couldn't have been nicer, the interaction. You remember those things.
Sure.
In professionally, and Alex Golish, not the name that I saw coming. Right. I had him pegged for another job, but your thoughts on him being named the next head football coach at Auburn?
Well, he came in and took him to a winner. There's not a lot of body of work as a head coach, which I find interesting with these guys, that there was just so many jobs. So you're going with guys that have not been doing this long, but the Americans are great. And I think it's a great look at something when you have less. And I always say, who can do more with less? Art Browse was a friend of mine. Hadn't talked to him in a while, but just that system, let's just talk about that system. So Heupel and him kind of went out and said, hey, we're going to run what Art Browse ran. Obviously that was something I really believed in. Now, Art would be the first to tell you, and we've talked a lot about as far as things such as I'm going to time every receiver, but he always said, I'm going to run for more than I throw. So if that horizontal spread of receivers, the tempo, those things, and he still runs the ball like that. And, we saw that at Tennessee. This is that same system. I think there's pluses and minuses to it. Obviously, we've kept the defense coordinator who's done a good job, so there's some familiarity with it. But, I think it's going to be interesting. It's just not a ton of a body of work to look at, but I think it was a good pick.
Educate us. I realized that Cam Coleman, his athleticism, his size, that That plays in most
absolutely.
offenses, right?
Yeah.
That's going to play. But is there a specific type of receiver you think that he in particular is looking for to fit that offense? How does that work?
Yeah, so the big deal there was vertical spread. And that goes back to, can you really run? It was Art's big deal. Obviously, they got to catch the ball. But I want track times. That was what he always, every time I talk, I want track times. You run a 4.4. Now, I want a verified track time that you can really run because we're stretching the field vertically. Now, they stretch it horizontally. If you don't cover down on the wider splits, we're going to get the ball out, right? So we got to build the now screen stuff. You come up, we're going behind you. As you widen, we run the ball. I mean, it's really just that simple. You watch their running game was always about hugging the tackles. They're trying to stay away from those overhang defenders that have to bump out to help on the screen game. So we're going to stretch you horizontally with screens. We're going to stretch you vertically. If you do that, if you cover down the receivers and you stay deep, we should be able to run the ball. I mean, it's just that simple. Now, quarterback's got to have the arm to get it out there. And so that's what they're going to be looking for. The way they use the run of the quarterback is you've done all those things, and then when we need the quarterback run, we got it. Now, it was not built on quarterback run. It was built on we hardly ever use the quarterback run, so when we need it, we got it. But that's what the offense was built on. Very successful, obviously, for Baylor all those years. Josh Heupel came and basically copied that, and Golich obviously was his OC. So we're going to see that same type of offense with up-tempo.
Being in the recruiting realm like you've been, is that an offense that's ultimately going to register higher on your more high-profile skill position players? I don't know with NIL now. I don't know how much that matters. Is that attractive for an offensive guy to go play for, or vice versa?
Yeah, I think it definitely is. I think anything that says we're going to get more snaps, and tempo run correctly is hard to defend. Now, it can backfire. It can backfire on you if you don't have the ability to slow the game up when you need to. Now, there's people out there that just say, I'm going fast all the time. Defense be damned. We're going fast. We're going to go fast all the time. And my defense coordinator better stop them. Obviously we just saw Tennessee let their defense coordinator go, which doesn't say how good or bad he was. It just, I think there's a lot of pressure put on the defense coordinator in those systems.
Yeah, and that's why you were so good with your staffs and how offense and defense complemented. It wasn't two sides of the ball. They all flowed together.
Complementary football. And I think that's why when I come back to Georgia, complementary football, and I explain to people, that does not mean we run it every down. It just means we're going to be able to do what you have a problem with or you trying to take away from us or you're weak at. We want to be able to be balanced enough to be able to do all those things, the toughness of the run game that we need. We're going to run it, and we can still run it to a degree. Now, if you get everybody up there, obviously we're going to throw it over your head, but 4-minute offense. And then what are you doing 2-minute offense? You got to be able to throw the ball in those cases. So that's what it looks like to be balanced. I think when you unbalance sometimes is where the problems come in. Now, I do like tempo, and there's a place for tempo. I don't like tempo all the time because it puts a strain on your defense. Go put some 3-and-outs, boom, 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 over and over and over. Your defense is going to suffer.
Another part of the state, another hire, UAB, place you're very familiar with. Alex Mortensen, a guy that I've gotten to know in his time as offensive coordinator under Trent Dilfer. I really like Alex as a person. I respect him as a coach. But your thoughts on the hire?
Yeah, I think it goes without saying I was disappointed in how it was handled. But I think in the end, they've got him a really good young man who's very, very smart. Did some good, the Memphis win kept them together after the tragedy that struck. I think just bringing folks together, find a way to raise funds. That's going to be interesting in today's climate. But I think he's very smart. Obviously, Lyle Henley, my strength coach, is still there. He thinks a lot of Coach Mortensen. So, wish him nothing but the best.
And just wondering, I'm sure there'll be some philosophical differences than maybe his own ideas of things he wants to implement. Sure. As now he's the head coach of that program, and that's probably both on the offensive and defensive side. Yeah,
the hardest thing, and I say this all the time, and I remember Mike Shula sitting in my office, who was a very smart guy, could tell me all about Warren Sapp's contract. but he had no head coaching experience in the SEC. SEC less than just being a head coach. That's my worry for Mortensen. You're going to have some on the job. Just you have no idea, that it's coming out of fire hose. You got fundraising and discipline and da-da-da-da-da. But he's seen it done very well, obviously, at his time at Alabama. He will learn quickly, and it's just, can you put that? And you're at a place that's lacking in things. And so, how do you find a way to raise money and do those things, get the community involved? But he has seen it done well, and I think he's smart. And, he reached out to me about, let's get together. And I said, hey, I'm here. I'm here to talk.
Complimentary. I'm talking about complimentary football. We pay compliments to our friends at Donahue Chevrolet all the time. They've been getting it done for a long time in Fort Payne. They've taken care of you, your family. Is it washed?
It needs to be washed today.
I'll get right on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Coach. Donahue Chevrolet, tell them about all the ridiculous deals you're going to get.
Yeah, I think one of the things, too, is at this time of year, at the Christmas holidays, you've got, they always have deals. Of course, service members, college students, they're always looking for a way to get you in a new vehicle, and we know it's in quality. Yeah. Chevrolet.
Also, our friends, Jimmy Lee, Buffalo Rock, Pepsi, great products. I drink them every day. Drink a lot of them every day. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Yep. Thank you, fine folks at Buffalo Rock, but they also provide the show every week. Yeah, Buffalo Rock, Dr. Pepper, just Jimmy Lee and all the folks at Buffalo Rock and what they do for us and support a lot of great causes around the area. All right, that's going to do it for this week, the Coach Bill Clark Show. For Molly Robinson, for Pat Smith and his agent that are contemplating whether to go through this portal thing or not. I don't think he'll do it. I don't think he is. No. We've got a pretty good counter offer, right? For the Coach Bill Clark, I'm Landry Roberts. Thanks for joining us.
This has been the Bill Clark Show, presented by